Welcome to the Primitive Lifeways channel on YouTube. Today is the winter solstice. Right beside me is Granite Mountain. What a better day to spend it than firing pottery, traditional pots that I made by hand, and also acknowledging and honoring the traditional people that once occupied this very landscape that I'm standing on today. Around 1,000 years ago, known as the prehistoric Prescott culture, as well as descendant groups known as Yavapai. Let's get started and fire up some pots. So as I head back into this dispersed campsite and where I fire my pots, I looked at the temperature and it's reading 31 degrees. And that's going to be a challenge, no question about it. Firing pottery at these temperatures really does test not only your patience, but your skill level as a potter. It's also important today to acknowledge what we're grateful for. And I'm particularly grateful for the skills that I have learned. It's important to share those with others, especially the younger generations, so these skills don't die out. There's not too many people digging wild clay and building pots by hand. You can see right behind me, there's still some snow on the ground. So it's going to be a cold day. It will challenge us. But either way, whatever results we achieve, I'll be thankful. Okay, so what I'm doing right now is creating a preliminary fire. So I'm building a hotbed of coals and slowly preheating these pots on this cold winter solstice day. Some of the pots that I'm firing, these three are planewares, and these are copies from the Agua Fria National Monument. The Agua Fria National Monument Perry Mesa Complex is just a massive cultural group, probably a blending and meshing of different cultures, such as Mogollon, Prescott, Salado, and probably Sinawa as well, with those late phase Tuzagut style wares and highly polished vessels. So that's what you're looking at right here with the planewares. And then off to my far right, your far left, is a test jar. This is a Sakatone phase sedentary period Hohokam style jar. So I'm using a caliche clay, and then I'm actually testing out this paint mixture. The paint mixture is red hematite red clay with a mesquite binder. We'll see how well it does in the fire. And yeah, we'll keep at this, slowly heat these pots. I have a lot of wood to process, and we'll get through that and start firing these up. So I'll be right back with you. So I have a pretty decent bed of coals here, as you can see, and at this point I'm going to start putting in my kiln furniture. So what I use for kiln furniture are just broken pot sherds. So I take some of these vessels that I make and I purposely break them, because that's already fired material, that's fired ceramic, and I know that it'll survive this hot bed of coals. It's survived the thermal stress of firing before. You can use volcanic material as well, but I prefer pot sherds. And then these larger sherds you can see here, I use as cover sherds for that red on buff vessel. You can see I have cover sherds on that Hohokam style vessel. I then took small juniper poles and lined the exterior of this hot bed of coals. And what that's doing is it's slowly heating these pots up until I'm ready for the primary fire. How you know when it's ready is I take saliva or even droplets of water and I flick them on the surface of the pots. Once they start to fizzle, I know that I can start stacking larger poles on top of them and just let it rip and let it do its thing. This is really important to go slow, especially on a cold winter day. You want to slowly generate the heat so these pots don't heat up too fast and then end up spalling or breaking. I'm a little bit pressed on time, so I'm going faster than I normally would, but we have a wind front coming in, and I've had more vessels break and explode from wind than anything else, even over the cold. But I'm just hyper vigilant, paying close attention to what these pots are doing, and everything's looking good. We'll continue on. Just a little bit longer. You can see the fire has completely died down, but this is still a very, very hot bed of coals. I can feel it all the way up here where I'm standing. And if I pull these pots off right now, they will crack and break, especially with it being in the 30s today. It's just too cold. So I don't want to risk that. I'll let Mother Nature take its course and just cool these coals off slowly but surely, and then I will take the pots off. We will test each jar. I have a ceramic sherd. We'll see how it rings. Everything's looking really good. Just a minute ago, I looked at all the vessels. I don't see any cracks or breaks, but again, once we take them off, that is the true test. Now, typically speaking, with these red on buff jars, the longer you keep them on the coals, the more likely it is to turn that pigment brown, more of a brownish color. So normally when I fire in the spring and the summertime, I pull that jar off first. And once it hits that cooler atmosphere, that paint will turn a nice blood red color. You get some really beautiful results, but that's not what I'm after. I'm going to keep it on the coals so it doesn't blow up and explode or crack. And I am just wanting to see if this paint mixture does in fact stick. So let's test out these jars, these plainware vessels. You can hear that nice ring. Same with this one. And we'll come around to this right side, your left. A really nice ring there too. So the wait continues. So I just took off this red on buff vessel and let's test it out. Let's see how well it fired. Yeah, it fired nice and hard, but as expected, I do have some issues with the paint. You can see it started to flake off, and I can tell you exactly what that is. This was kind of expected. So when I first painted this vessel, I added more mesquite resin than I normally do. And as that resin started to dry and shrink, it started to flake off. So I kind of figured it would do the same thing within the firing, and these are the spots that it flaked off on. You can see how splotchy that appearance is. Now the place where, or the places that I added the least amount of mesquite resin, so a lighter mixture, that held up quite nice, especially along this rim. The rim did end up sticking quite well, but you can see along the body and the belly of this pot, it is splotchy. So for the future, I'll add less resin and probably a little bit more clay. Here are my final 3 pots, the plainware vessels. All 3 are an absolute success. They fired nice and hard, no cracks, no breaks. I'm very, very pleased with the results on these.